Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great show for you tonight. Mr. Michael Krawitz is here from Patients Out of Time and Veterans for Medical Marijuana. And so we'll be talking to him. We also have Mr. Tim Pate over here on guitar. He'll be joining us in a second. How are you tonight, Tim?
I'm very good, thank you. I am.
Good, good. We'll also be taking your phone calls. We have some film clips. We even have a little clip from Toots Hibbert of Toots in the Maytall. So stay tuned as we bring out our infamous Dance of the Cannabis Ladies. All right, so we're going to start out with Mr. Tim Pate, who's standing by in the wings here to play us a song. Go right ahead, Tim.
This one's for Eric Holder, who I'm sure this week increased the blues factor in Oregon by a factor of 10. Thank you, folks. Thank you.
Okay. Got a hemp news segment here for you tonight. Starting with from Providence, Rhode Island, the U.S. Department of Justice, or DOJ, will soon clarify its position in regards to those who use, possess, produce, and distribute cannabis for medicinal purposes. In compliance with state law, United States Attorney General Eric Holder stated last week at a press conference in Providence, Rhode Island. Holder's been questioned regarding the administration's stance over U.S. attorneys in various states have sent letters to lawmakers threatening to sanction state-licensed medical marijuana providers. Those letters persuaded lawmakers in several states, including New Jersey and Rhode Island, to suspend programs allowing for the state-licensed production and dispensing of cannabis. In Arizona, State Attorney General Tom Horn, at the request of Republican Governor Jan Brewer, has filed a lawsuit requesting a federal judge to determine whether state officials can legally license private entities to dispense marijuana under the state's newly enacted medical cannabis law. Holder stated, "We're going to bring clarity so that people understand what the federal policy means and how this policy will be implemented." He added, "We're working in a process We are in a process of working these issues with the U.S. Attorney for Rhode Island and other U.S. attorneys across the country. My hope is that sometime in the not too distant future, it'll be addressed, end quote. In 2009, the United States Department of Justice issued a memorandum to selected U.S. attorneys that stated in part, as a general matter, pursuit of these priorities should not focus federal resources in your states on individuals whose actions are in clear and unambiguous compliance with existing state laws providing for the medical use of marijuana. And so that's the end of our story on the federal policy. Our next story is from Vermont. Vermont's Democratic Governor, Peter Shumlin, signed legislation into law last week that allows for the establishment of state-sanctioned medical cannabis distribution facilities. The governor signed the law despite a last-minute warning from the U.S. Department of Justice alleging that it would conflict with federal anti-drug laws. Vermont's new law is Senate Bill 17, and it authorizes Vermont's Department of Public Safety to license up to 4 facilities to provide marijuana to qualified patients. Each facility will be allowed to provide cannabis for up to 1,000 patients. The department's in the process of developing rules to carry out the new law. It's anticipated to begin issuing licenses within 6 or 7 months and is required by law to begin doing so within 1 year. To date, only the state of Colorado, Maine, and New Mexico have state-licensed medical marijuana facilities up and running. Regulators in New Jersey and Rhode Island have selected applicants to operate similar state-licensed dispensaries, but neither state has allowed those applicants to open their planned facilities. A similar licensing program in Arizona is also on hold. Permits for licensed medical marijuana businesses are expected to be issued within the next 6 to 12 months in Delaware and the District of Columbia. Vermont's lawmakers initially approved the physician-supervised use of marijuana in 2004, but failed to provide a state-regulated supply source. Also, the state of Connecticut decriminalized personal possession of small amounts of marijuana this week. Connecticut's House lawmakers on Tuesday voted 90 to 57 in favor of the measure. Members of the Senate had previously passed the measure on Saturday after Democratic Lieutenant Governor Nancy Wyman broke an 18-18 tie. Newly elected Democratic Governor Daniel Malloy had backed the measure and is expected to sign it into law. Senate Bill 1014 reduces the penalties for adult possession of up to half an ounce of marijuana from a criminal misdemeanor, punishable by a year in jail and a $1,000 fine, to an infraction, punishable by a fine and no arrest or jail time. So that's the end of our hemp news segment tonight. I'd like to welcome a guest on here. Hello, Michael.
Thank you.
Michael Krawitz, am I pronouncing that right?
That's right.
All right. And you want to tell us your affiliation?
Well, I'm the Executive Director of Veterans for Medical Cannabis Access, and I'm also a board advisor member for Patients at a Time.
Okay, okay. And tell us about the breakthroughs on medical cannabis at the Veterans, at the VA this year. I know we talked about it on our show earlier.
I guess it's a breakthrough. It's certainly a breakthrough for us. I think it's just really writing down something that really already was the way it should have been. Mm-hmm. But the fact of it being that since 1996, when the first modern medical marijuana laws were passed, the VA had never put in effect a policy. They had a patchwork quilt of anti-drug policies, mm-hmm. but they didn't have an actual medical cannabis policy. And they certainly wouldn't talk about it. If you went to the VA 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, 2 years ago even, and said, anything about the word cannabis, marijuana, anything, they'd shut you down, say, we're a federal entity, we can't talk about these things. And through my work inside the VA and Martin Chilcutt from Kalamazoo, Michigan, on the outside, mm-hmm. we reached a nexus point where we met up with the California Cannabis Medical Research Group and others, and together we all came to an agreement on a policy in the VA, which mm-hmm. was published in the New York Times about this time last year. Mm-hmm. And since then, we've been holding our breath and waiting for the tidal wave of response that really never came. It was a non-starter. So now we have a policy. It's on its second revision. The directive has already been updated. So we have a second revision of this medical cannabis policy in the VA, and it protects vets that are using cannabis in a medical marijuana state.
Perfect.
There's no risk of them having, loss of benefits or anything like that. And it certainly answers the question of, does a doctor need to take away your pain treatment if you're using medical marijuana? And certainly there's no federal reason to do so if the VA doesn't see the need to do so. So that's been the greatest breakthrough for us. Actually, it's not so much about veterans, but so much proving a negative, that there was no policy in place already. We had to prove it, and that was a way to prove it. The VA put its stamp of approval, if you will, on that idea.
How long did it take you to that whole process? It just took a few minutes to say, but it sounds like it took a lot longer to do.
I started fighting what was called the pain contract, and now they've started using different language like pain agreement and pain, attestation even. And I now reserve pain contract only to a document that threatens to take away the patient's pain treatment. And any way, shape, or form, if it threatens to take away their pain treatment, I call it a pain contract. And it's just not a reasonable, and it's not a fair document. The patients shouldn't feel like they should need to have to sign it, and the doctors shouldn't feel the pressure to make their patients sign it. But they're still putting that kind of thing in effect. And I fought that outside the VA, and then I started fighting it inside the VA about 10 years ago.
We get regular calls about things like that on this show.
Yeah,
We really
all
do.
the time.
Yeah,
In
all
fact,
the time.
since you brought that up, we do have a caller standing by.
There
Let's
you
go
go.
ahead and take her first phone call. Welcome to the show, caller.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Hello.
I was calling. I'm a 63-year-old female, and I'm in a wheelchair now. Someone told me about a dispensary. I never knew that there were any. I do not take pain medication at all. And I'm in a lot of pain. I don't sleep at night. I have seizures. There's multiple things. My liver. And I went there. And it was the most extremely nice, kind, caring place I had been. I made a mistake, I'd say 40 years ago, using drugs. And a doctor, as soon as they hear that, they will not touch you. But they had me on patches and everything else. Well, now I'm no longer on those things. But with the medibles, just the medibles, I can get a few hours of sleep at night.
Right.
I'm not woken up by the seizures. And God bless whoever opened them, or it's available to people like us.
Well, the U.S. Attorney for the state of Oregon and almost every district attorney in the state of Oregon just in this past week signed a letter that was sent to landlords and to dispensary operators telling them what they're doing is illegal. They'd better shut down or they would be arrested. And today there was a protest in downtown Portland, and the U.S. Attorney contacted the Portland City Councilor's office and asked them to stop this protest against the federal letter.
Oh, wow.
So the U.S. Attorney for the state of Oregon doesn't even think we should have free speech rights. He thinks the city of Portland should stop permitted protests about his letter. So this bodes very ill for freedom of speech and just general freedom here in America when the U.S. Attorney can try to squelch free speech and our right to gather to protest his policies. So I urge you to write a letter to President Obama, the U.S. Attorney General, and curtail Oregon's Attorney General's attempt to shut down our right to free speech and to peacefully protest these policies.
Or even the dispensaries. I've lived in the same house. I've owned my home for 42 years. I think I'm established. Everyone knows. You know, I mean, it's not like I've ever moved since I moved from Portland, from San Francisco, and I was 20 years old. But no, I've never. I've had relief.
And the dispensaries have really helped you.
Oh, most definitely. And run very professionally. At first, you're scrutinized. You just don't waltz in.
Right.
You are scrutinized. You just can't show your license. It's your ID. Things are checked on the computer, the back of your license. I mean, it's all very, very done to where there's no slip-ups. You know, there's like no room for error. And it's a very nice, peaceful place to be.
All right. Well, I hope it continues to be able to operate and help you. Thanks for your phone call.
I do too. And thank you so much.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Good
You have a good night. If you're out there and you have a question for us, you can call us at that number, 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. We'll be taking your phone calls right up to the top of the hour.
You know, I got to say, that's a very compelling phone call that just came in, and it gives us ample reason to consider the dispensaries because of that one person's circumstance alone. That one circumstance could be repeated so many times throughout the state. So we both know that. We both know that it is. And the sadness of it is that there are a lot of people out there who are very, very sick and cannot grow their own medicine and are not capable of that and would benefit greatly by a supply that was reasonable and that it was, you know, also good medicine. There's just no doubt about it.
Well, just any gardener could have a problem with their supply and being able to go to some other garden, whether it be mold, animals, thieves, the weather, the possibilities are really endless. But we have another caller, though. Welcome to our show, caller.
Hi, this is Dee Dee. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very well.
Well, my question is so I just met somebody. They told me that their relative does blood tests at the VA, and if they test for marijuana and you get positive, regardless if you have a card, they're going to kick you out of VA. You're not going to get benefits
anymore. That's how
anymore.
it used to be. Isn't that right? They've changed that policy by and large on a national level, Michael. And Michael, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, the VA's policy, it's a directive on medical cannabis. It's, as I said, the second revision of the directive. And it spells out to the VA, A, that the doctors aren't supposed to write recommendations. Okay, they're federal doctors. We can understand why they're saying that. And B, that it's a federal property, so they're warning veterans not to bring their marijuana onto the property. That's a second part. And then the third part is where you'd be of interest to us, and that is that no veteran shall have any services denied to them administratively if they use marijuana or cannabis per the state law. That's the directive, that's the policy, and that's also in line with the ethics as stated by the ethics committee of the VA, and also in other documents it confirms this right to have your access not taken away administratively. This is a medical thing, not something where the police or some sort of administrator can come in and take away your medicine or threaten you in that way. And I would encourage any veteran out there that is having trouble with the VA. There are doctors in the system that feel like their responsibility to the patient is a little bit smaller than the responsibility to the drug war. If that happens, give us a call. We're at Veterans for Medical Marijuana or Veterans for Medical Cannabis.org, and give us a holler, or at medicalcannabis.com is the Patients Out of Time website. So do give us a call and drop us an email if you're having trouble like that in the VA.
Well, we haven't run into it personally, just that this person's putting out that information. She says, for sure, you're going to lose your benefits. And I just want to be able to direct people to the right information.
There you go.
There you go. If you go to va.gov and you type marijuana right into the search engine, you'll come up with the directive as well. It's right there, printed, posted policy.
All righty. I looked, but I guess I did it wrong. All righty. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have a studio audience, and if you'd like to come down and join our studio audience any Friday night, come on down to 2766 Northeast MLK. That's 2766 Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, just at the corner of Graham, Graham. We have a studio audience member who has a question for us. Go right ahead, man.
I am not a veteran, but I am suffering from the same problem as your caller. I have recently been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I have been a card holder for years. I don't use it for pain. I use it for nausea. I'm allergic to every nausea medicine known to man. When I got my card in the beginning, my doctor that signed my card had informed me of Marisol, which is DEA recognized, and suggested I inform my doctor of that. My doctor will not give me that as well. And now that I am on a pain contract, I have tested positive for marijuana, and he has given me 30 days to decide whether I want my medicine or my pot.
Huh. Well, that's terrible.
Well,
That's terrible.
I've called...
You need to find, the folks up at OHSU have a pain clinic where they won't do that to you.
I have called every single doctor up at OHSU. No doctor will see me with the medical marijuana card. I have called the Oregon Pain Commission. I have called the Department of Human Resources. I have spent 6 weeks researching this and cannot find a primary care physician in the Portland area that will accept me with the medical marijuana card.
That's quite a trail.
Well, since you're here, let's talk after the show. Maybe we can help you find somebody. I can't make any guarantees, of course, but we can try.
That would be great.
I've got some very quick advice if you have the
Please,
time.
go right ahead, Michael.
If you want to pursue this through the VA hospital, what I recommend is that you go to the patient advocate and put in writing that you would like to see what regulation it is that they're citing when they say that you have to choose between your pain medicine.
They get federal funding.
Well, that's good and well, but they have to put it in writing. They're not like the auto parts store. This is the federal government. They're not allowed to do anything without having a regulation behind them. The regulation is well known to me, and it doesn't say that. So it's kind of a trick question.
I ended up talking to an attorney from Portland Normal, and he informed me that my doctor was absolutely correct. He suggested that I choose between one or the other.
Well, I feel very sad that you've gotten that advice. That's incorrect advice. And the policy is that the doctor cannot administratively deny it. If he has some medical reason, that's good and well, and that should be in writing as well. Clearly, if it's a medical reason, it would be in writing in your medical file. If it's not a medical reason, if it's an administrative reason, then it has to be pursuant to regulation, and they have to put that in writing. If you go to the director, go to the patient advocate, put that in writing, get something back in writing, give us a call. Absolutely serious. Email us at the Veterans for Medical Cannabis Access website, and we will help you. We will interact with the hospital on your behalf if you get something in writing. If you don't get something in writing after a reasonable amount of time, give us a call then.
Great. Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Yeah, that's a real,
for real.
tough
Good
one.
luck.
I mean, they get you addicted
You're in
to
pain.
these-
Nobody
these
likes being in
opiates.
pain, you know?
Yeah.
Well, even more than that, the pain medicine works as an adjunct with, or I guess the other way around, the cannabis works as an adjunct to the pain treatment,
Right.
making it more effective. So it's like making an elderly person choose between their medicine and their food.
That's
for
what it
God's
says
sakes.
right here on these bottles, that it enhances the narcotic properties of
And reduces the
painkillers.
amount that you need so that you can go to the bathroom and do other functions that are kind of necessary for a good life.
Yeah, that's really
Absolutely.
important. If you have a question for us tonight, you can call us at 503-288-4448. We have another caller standing by. Welcome to the show, caller.
Is that me?
That's you.
There you are.
Okay. Well, yes, I've watched your show off and on for a couple of years now, and
Thank you.
now I have the problem. And my doctors, as I told the lady I talked to, I made the mistake of telling one of my doctors that I was on medical marijuana, and my whole world collapsed. I was immediately informed that I had to choose between marijuana and my morphine. Well, I'm on 60 grams of morphine 4 times a day with a kicker at night of 15 grams. And,
Wow. You're in
and
pain.
I've smoked marijuana for 30-some-odd years. And they're saying, oh, well, it'll cause a bad reaction between your morphine and...
And that's just not true. That's a
told
lie
the
on their
doctor-
part.
I told the doctor, I says, you know that's ridiculous. I've been going to you for 8-9 years, and I've smoked that whole time, and it hasn't caused any bad reaction. So, is there anything I can do?
You can file a complaint against the doctor with the Oregon Board of Medicine. That's probably the best thing you can do.
Good start.
Yeah.
The Oregon
Board of Medicine.
Pardon me?
Oregon Board of Medicine.
Right. And file a complaint that this doctor is arbitrarily quoting pseudoscience.
You'll find that any information in the state services. It'll be there.
Yeah, and what else did he tell me? Oh, that if it was up to him, he wouldn't care. But it's the Providence Medical Hospital that is they're a Catholic organization, and they're even. I says, what they're going to do when they legalize it the whole way? It's right next to legalize now, and he says, oh, well, they still won't allow you to have that and your medicine both.
Wow. It's amazing.
And I'm just desperate.
That's amazing.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
All I can say is file that complaint and try to find another clinic. Even though I know there's a person in the audience said they haven't been able to do that, I know there are some out there that will allow you to use it. I can't say what their names are off the top of my head, though.
Yeah, well, I heard you tell the one lady to hold on till after the show and that she would try to find a doctor.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me give you a number and call, and you can ask us this question. Leave this as a message at our regular office line. It's 503-235-4606. There it is on your screen, 503-235-4606. And we'll try to get back to you with some information early next week.
Okay, thank you so much.
It really is.
Very common.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And best of luck to you. We have a studio audience member here of some renown. It's Mr. Casper Leach, the host of Time for Hemp Radio. Welcome, Casper.
Thank you very much. And it's an honor to be on your program this evening, Paul.
Thanks.
Hi, Michael.
Hey there, Casper.
Hey, bro.
Now, I was reading on the internet that the Attorney General is stressing out about how Oregon is handling the medical marijuana and is going to be cracking down on selling marijuana and is encouraging landlords to not rent to people who have medical marijuana gardens and are becoming
and that's
threatening.
happening not just in Oregon, but all across the country.
How's that going to affect the liberal and progressive stance that we've taken here in this state? Is this going to set us backwards? Are we going to be able to overcome on that?
Those are going to be individual fights from each one of those people. He has written letters, as what I understand it, to each group. And I don't know what the total content of that letter is. I haven't seen it, and I haven't seen anything on the internet yet, although I do know of several groups that have received the letter. And because of that, I know that the hackles are up on all of those people, and they're probably preparing to fight or, talk to their attorneys and see what for. Who knows what's going to happen next? But this has been a long fight, and I know that we're not finished fighting. He's going to keep fighting, and we're going to keep fighting too. So I guess the fight's still on.
And what we're trying to do is just completely legalize the sale of marijuana to adults and licensed farmers so they can grow the flowers for adult use, sell it through state licensed stores. We'd allow people to grow their own. Would also legalize industrial hemp for fuel, fiber, food, and raise significant public revenue for numerous good causes. So we urge you to go to that website, cannabistaxact.org. You can actually print out our petitions right there online, a single signature sheet on a single side of paper, sign that and mail it back into us. Or if you'd like to gather signatures, you can fill out the volunteer form. If you fill out the volunteer form at cannabistaxact.org, then we will mail you a package with several signature sheets so you can gather signatures from your friends and family. So that is our solution, is to just completely end marijuana prohibition and restore industrial hemp, and that's what we're trying to do through the initiative process. So we'd appreciate your support. So we have a film clip we're going to roll right now. We'll be back in just a second to take some more of your phone calls. Thanks.
Growing in inexpensive, readily available containers allows each plant to be cared for individually, including the water and nutrient regimen. Weak, sick, and problem plants are easy to cull from the garden.
What this does is it gives you the ability to put the plants where you want them. And if they're planted in the ground, you don't have that ability.
Container preference is often a matter of convenience, cost, and availability.
The rule of thumb is to have approximately 1 gallon of container for each month that the plant's alive. Now this pot is a 3-gallon container. Okay, so what this means is this plant can grow in here easily for another couple of months, no problem. The reason these containers are normally black is so that the roots inside the container receive no light. This is very important. Roots cannot have light.
Growers prefer pots that are taller than they are wide because they allow the cannabis root system to penetrate deeply.
One of the first things we need to consider when we look at containers are the drainage holes. Drainage holes are incredibly important, and we have to have an adequate amount.
Containers should have at least 2 half-inch holes per square foot of bottom.
What we need to do is continually pour more water and nutrients on the top and let it drain out the bottom. The container should also have a saucer underneath to contain some of the runoff water. Now, if the water stays in the bottom, it'll rot the roots. It's that simple. Notice also that the plants are put in here about as tight as you can get them, because they really do not need much space when they're small.
Huddle small, containerized plants tightly together under the brightest area below the HID lamp and move them further apart as they grow. In general, each 40-inch square space will hold from 16 to 32 plants.
Now let's look at growing mediums. There's 2 basic kinds of growing mediums. First is a soilless mix. This is a medium that does not have any elements in it that will react with the plant. So you can fertilize it, and that's it. You have complete control. This is what hydroponic gardens use.
Soilless mixes are inexpensive, lightweight, and sterile growing mediums.
You've got rock wool, which is spun rock fiber. You've got coconut husks that have been cleaned up and pressed together. And then you've got something like this, which is a mix of several components, mainly perlite and peat moss.
Texture of soilless mixes should be coarse, light, and spongy to allow drainage and sufficient moisture and air retention.
The next type is an organic medium. Many people prefer organic soil. I like organic soil real well, but I have to be careful with it just like you should. So if you're a new grower, first-time grower, I would suggest that you try a simple soilless mix that holds water evenly and drains well.
The pH scale from 1 to 14 measures acid to alkaline balance. 1 is most acidic, 7 is neutral, and 14 most alkaline. Cannabis flourishes when the pH is between 6.5 and 7. Hydroponic solutions perform best in a slightly lower pH range, from 5.8 to 6.8. Measure the pH with a soil test kit, litmus paper, or electronic pH tester. Accurate measurement and control is essential to a strong, healthy garden.
Here's a dynamic example of pH and why you should control it. Notice that these little plants are all yellow. Well, the reason they're yellow is because the pH is too low, and since the pH is too low, the nitrogen is locked out. That's why they're yellow.
The easiest way to stabilize the pH of a soil that's too acidic is to mix 1 cup of fine dolomite lime per cubic foot of soil. The easiest way to stabilize soil pH that's too base is to add a fertilizer that contains sulfur. Ideally, soil temperature should range between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
If it starts getting up to 75 degrees, you're going to have problems. You're going to have a lot more insect trouble, and you're going to have fungus problems and basically rot.
Soil amendments increase the soil's air, water, and nutrient retaining abilities. Mineral amendments are near neutral on the pH scale and contain few, if any, available nutrients. Organic soil amendments contain carbon and break down through bacterial activity. To improve drainage, mix 10 to 20% coarse perlite into soilless mix before planting. These are a little dry, and so we can pull this out right here and take a look at the root mass down here.
It's a little bit easier when they're dry. They're not as heavy, that's for sure.
It is.
Hey, we have a caller who's been standing by. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller. Can you hear us?
Yes.
There you are.
Welcome.
Yes, I can. How are you this evening?
Very good, thank you.
Very well.
Good.
Do you have a question?
Well, basically a comment.
Okay.
I've been on a pain contract for 8 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I take 160 milligrams of slow-release morphine 3 times a day. That's augmented by 126 15-milligram morphine
A day.
fast-acting pills, along with 60 diazepams.
Wow.
And that's every 28 days. About 6 months ago, my doctor said that the state had passed a law requiring urine tests, and I showed up positive for marijuana. And so now, every time I pick up my medication, I have to take a urine test, which has caused me to have to quit smoking marijuana, which really helped more than, after this many years at those high levels of pain medication, it starts losing its effectiveness. And I found that smoking, not a lot, but even just a little marijuana, helped immensely. And now it's a choice, kind of like the lady earlier, of what do? You, lose your pain contract, or you live in pain.
Tough choices.
Yeah.
There's
Those
no
are tough
easy answer
choices.
at all.
Well, you were just talking during the break and saying the thing to do is to make a lot of noise. And you were saying they can't cut you off, right? By law or that's time to talk to a lawyer.
They can't cut you off cold turkey. They have to wean you off the medication. But unfortunately, if you're in that much pain that you need that much medication, then weaning you off the pain treatment is just going to put you back in the pain, which is not going to be a situation you can tolerate. So there's no easy answers. I think at this point, maybe this is the time when we start talking about a legislative option to make sure that our research has shown that doctors are doing this not so much because of any law that's passed. I don't know of any Oregon law.
Any law.
There's no Oregon law.
Folks have said, the law passed. It says we have to give you a urine test. That's not true.
Yeah, they tried to do that just recently in Florida, and it did not pass. So it's not likely it passed without me knowing about it here. But what the thing is, though, is that the doctors go to trade shows just like we do. I just went to Hemp Expo up in Toronto, the Treating Yourself Expo. It's fantastic. But anyway, the doctors go to their own expos, and at those expos, they hear from lawyers, JD, MDs, who tell them they get those contracts signed, it'll protect you from the feds. And A, I don't think it protects them from the feds, and B, it puts your patients like you in a hostile environment where you have to make these ridiculously unimaginably inhumane choices. So maybe there's a third rail option. Go to your state, go to the health boards, go to the legislators, go to your senators, just yell to everybody and see what sticks.
If I could drive and get around,
I would. I wouldn't drive and get around. I'd do it by email and phone and get you have representatives in government, and some of them will be very anxious to talk to you. Some of them won't want to hear from you. Find the ones that are anxious to talk to you and see what they can do to help you. That may be the best option at this point, because the doctors are doing what they think they need to do. Maybe they need legal clarification from the right source.
But it's being unreasonable for the patients, and that's the bottom line. The patients are not getting the care that they need, and that's a shame.
And prior to this one positive test in 8 years, and like I say, it's not that I smoke a lot of marijuana, but I have found that
it really enhanced the pain relieving capacity of the other medicines.
And just appetite. When you take that much morphine every day, it just sucks the energy out of you, and you lose your appetite.
Well, I'm sorry they're putting you through this, sir. I would recommend that you call our office, leave a message about your situation. We'll try to get back to you next week. I can't make any promises that we'll have a solution, but we'll certainly try. So call the number that will pop up on your screen here in just a minute. It's 503-235-4606. In fact, if others are out there watching who are in a similar situation, please call and leave a message that indicates that you too are dealing with these pain contract, cannabis urine test issues, and we'll try to address them simultaneously. You can call us at that number, 503-235-4606.
I really appreciate that.
Thank you, and good luck. I'm sorry to hear they're putting you through that hell, but we'll try to help as best we can.
Well, we all have crosses to bear in life, I guess, and it's just, I don't know, I guess it's sad that,
But they're doing this based on pseudoscience. That's the horrible thing. They act like they're right when in fact they're wrong. So,
and I know there's no easy answer to any of this, but you would think there's got to be some common sense and doctors that realize that
I think the best solution is just to completely legalize marijuana. When we legalize marijuana and restore industrial hemp, then the whole rationale behind this 70 years, 80 years of lies will fall apart. And cannabis will be restored to its rightful place in our pharmacopoeia and in our resource for energy and food and fiber. And so that's what we're working to do through that Cannabis Tax Act. And if you're interested in getting petitions and helping on that, you can call that same number, 503-235-4606, and get involved in our campaign to end adult marijuana prohibition.
I don't have a card, but I'm going to get one, and I am going to get involved because now that this has happened to me, it's, and I hate to say, but being disabled, sometimes it's hard to get going and go out and do things. And
when you're in pain, it's hard to get going. There's no doubt about it.
Come.
All right, we'll call our office, and I hope we can find some way to help. Thanks again.
I appreciate that. You have a good evening.
You too.
If he has an individual, these big conglomerates, you have to deal with almost like the VA. You're going to have to deal with them like you're negotiating with a country. But if you're talking about an individual doctor or a small clinic, that's when patients out of time can come in very handy there. They've got a whole dossier of clinical cannabis research and clinical cannabis educational files, which are all accredited.
Yeah,
so it's something
so doctors can take that and get continuing medical education credits.
But even more, the doctors know that it's good stuff. I mean, this is college credit stuff. It's not just somebody's opinion. It's good, solid information, and that may help if you have a doctor that really doesn't understand and is misled a little bit, has dug in, like Paul said, into some of the pseudoscience, and you can steer them to some good documentation that really, double-blind, placebo-based research. We've got that now. So this is the time when we can, really easily educate doctors. And if that's, these are all tools that we have. You can reach into the tool bag and use them. If, one person, basically, I got through the VA system and got to a reasonable conclusion, then you could, take on a smaller challenge of a small clinic in your neighborhood and maybe have the same resolution.
Yeah, to get that issued on a national basis was really a breakthrough. I congratulate you on that.
Thank you.
Absolutely, truly.
We have a studio audience member. It's not just any studio audience member. It's the campaign manager for the Oregon Cannabis Tax Act petition who wrote an article this week. One of the things we found out from her article, I found it out, was that there was a hidden portion of the budget bill here in Oregon that increased the fee for state patients. I think it's effective October, from $100 to $200. Ooh. And so this was a line. We don't know who put it into this omnibus huge budget bill, but we have a question and comment here from Jennifer Alexander. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you. It's a comment, but with all the bad news coming out recently, I felt it needed said. So I wanted to thank everybody that's been calling in today and telling their story. I think it's so important that we keep telling these stories. I think a lot of people take it for granted that it's just like any other medicine and that we're not discriminated against over this. And it's so important that they understand the scenario that we are really working in right now. It's also important that you share these stories with people that aren't supportive of cannabis so that they learn. I think the greatest majority of our population isn't opposed to it. They're ignorant of it. And the more that we share our stories and talk and educate them, the more likely things will change. I hope legalization, but things in general will change. The VA, as Michael was talking about, these are huge wins. And I know in times like these, we sometimes feel like we're not as successful as we are, but the reality is all of this blowback is because we are winning. And I think it's important that we remember that we are gaining rights. Lee Berger just won the concealed handgun case. I mean,
That's right.
The VA has recognition of medical marijuana. There's a lot that we are winning. And the closer we get to winning, the harder it's going to be. And I just wanted to reinforce all of these people to know that there's more support than they're aware of. Keep talking, keep sharing.
Well, thank you. And as we read in our news segment tonight, in the state of Vermont, even in the face of threats from the federal government, they implemented a new dispensary law to open up state-licensed nonprofit dispensaries. So there are steps forward even in the face of some of these adversities.
You got a lot of show and tells.
We do. Let's just start here. We have one of our Michael, you're a aficionado of antique.
Fellow collector out there in the world.
We're out there looking at a lot of the same
Paul
things.
and I brush elbows often.
That's true, and just met here tonight, but we've been meeting online for years now. But we'll start with this bottle. This is the oldest bottle I have ever seen. It's from 1840, purchased in London, and it's one of the original cannabis indica. I don't know exactly whether this was manufactured in England or whether it was manufactured in England or in India and shipped to England. I'm not really sure. It's circa 1840 from London.
You can see the waves in the glass. It's handmade
it's definitely
glass.
older, and you can see the antique cannabis on the inner parts of the bottle there in this dark green amber bottle. Then right next to it we have a much more modern bottle. This is a replica, commemorative bottle. And we can get you to close in just a little bit there on camera too. This is a commemorative bottle from the British Pharmacological Society, and it's a tincture of cannabis. It's got the seal from the British Pharmacological Society right there, and it's a nifty little addition to our collection. Right next to it we have circa 1880 or 1890 a apothecary bottle for fluid extract of cannabis indica. It's what they call a lug bottle, or a label under glass, in that the label's placed in there, then a layer of glass is blown over it. Then next to it we have two different medicines from Park Davis. That's a company that's still in existence today. And this is a package of cannabis flowers. And it says here to use it as a nerve sedative and to put this package into a pint of ethyl alcohol and then take 1 dessert spoonful for the medicinal effect. So then next to it we have a powdered extract of cannabis. This was powdered hash or keef. The resin glands were separated from cannabis, and this is another Park Davis medicine. It's labeled on both sides here. And one of the things it was used for is it says an anodyne, narcotic like opium. It relieves pain and spasms, but it does not diminish the appetite or check secretions.
See, there's your addition to the opiates right there. You put that together with the opiates and it helps take away some of those negative side effects.
Exactly. Then next to it, those were two from Park Davis. This is another company that's still in existence today, Johnson & Johnson. your baby oil company, and this was a big poultice, a plaster of cannabis and aspirin. So this, you used it topically for all sorts of skin diseases or injuries, and something you don't expect from Johnson & Johnson. Then right next door we have two medicines from Sharp & Dome, another pharmaceutical company that's still out there. This is a tincture of cannabis from Sharp & Dome. Next to it, we just recently here this evening had a tragedy in that this bottle of migraine medicine was cracked and broken. We have a little break there. It fell off our counter. That's the first time we've had that happen.
Yep.
But another Sharp & Dome medicine for migraines. And again, this, like the Johnson & Johnson topical medicine, is a mixture of aspirin and cannabis. Then finally, we have over here two different Eli Lilly products, and they are also tinctures. So all of these are companies that are still in existence. Park Davis, Eli Lilly, Johnson & Johnson. Is Sharp & Dome still out there? I think they merged with someone a few years back.
They just renamed, yep.
Yeah, and so this is a standard cannabis indica extract, and this one over here is tincture number 17, where this is tincture of cannabis indica. I don't see a number on it.
That's
this one
before
looks
they
like,
numbered them. That's an earlier bottle.
That's a little older one, and it's labeled on both sides, which is kind of nifty. It's always nice to read those on the air, but I have something a little more interesting to read here tonight. We read from this once or twice before. It's called On the Trail of Marijuana, and it's a book that was published, let's see, to be accurate, I think circa in the 30s, 1939. And it says some of the chapters in here are a roadside weed becomes a national menace. Marijuana, the liar. How dope peddlers operate. Madness for profit. And dope's missing link. And so it's a horror story, and it was through lies like this that they were able to make marijuana illegal, through telling us that it caused us to go crazy and kill our family and friends, just like the movie Reefer Madness depicted. And another one that I brought out here for Michael's sake, it's the head of the first head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, Harry Anslinger, wrote this book, The Traffic in Narcotics, and he signed it over to his boss, the Secretary of Treasury. So that makes it a pretty nifty little addition to our collection. So there you have it.
He was the master at the distortions and marijuana.
He had that gore file that showed chopped up people and said, this is what happens when you smoke marijuana. You kill your family and friends and things like that. Well, if you're out there and you have a question for us tonight, give us a call at 503-288-4448, and we have a caller standing by. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Very well. How are you tonight?
I'm very well, thank you. And by the way, Tim, you sound great.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I call him the Doc Severinsen of marijuana. You know,
he
so
is. Absolutely, absolutely.
For those old enough to know who Doc Severinsen is.
Oh. I just want to encourage everyone. I appreciate that many of us aren't really ambulatory. It's hard for us to get around, but we do have access to our computers. Mm-hmm. And I feel that we need to have literally like blast Obamas and the senators and reps and all these people with mass emails telling them this is ridiculous what you're doing to us. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but I feel that also there's a possibility that they're trying to get rid of people being able to use marijuana based on the federal guidelines for people who are, for example, getting permit checks, anything from Social Security to disability, etc. And if you live in a building and you have even one person in your building, if you are an owner, and even one person in the building gets federal money, then part of their program is to say that nobody can have any access to anything that's not federally sanctioned.
Mm-hmm. That's the scary part. They can, take away one freedom at a time until suddenly there are none left.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Anyway, you guys all look great. Thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thanks.
And I'd like
Calling.
to quote my favorite, real quick, my favorite quote of the day from Stephen Colbert.
Okay.
Reality is a well-known liberal bias.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. He's always fun.
I would like to talk a little bit about the upcoming shows that we've got.
Please do. We have
Washington
a few
Park.
big benefits
Yes,
to
with Toots and the Maytals.
finance our petition drive to legalize
That's
marijuana and to help our Hempstock Festival that happens the second weekend of September 10th and 11th this year.
It is.
And so we've
anyway,
got the shows coming up.
We've got the shows coming up, and also I've been asked by the Sound Board, the Sound Review Board, which we had our hearing on Wednesday, and they unanimously voted us in favor of our concert to come up. They also asked us that if anybody's going to come to the concert, please carpool and enjoy the show, but be kind to the neighbors. So that was something they really asked me to stress tonight on the show. So thank you for. I've now done my legal duty.
Tim's going to dance over to to play some music for us here in the closing moments of the show, and I want to remind you that our Hempstead World Music Festival with the one of the founders of reggae music and the man who came up with the word reggae, Toots Hibbert of Toots and the Maytals, will be here playing 3 benefit shows through Oregon, down in Eugene at the Lane County Fair on Saturday, July 2nd, out in Redmond Bend on the 3rd of July, that's Sunday, July 3rd, and then here in Portland on the 4th of July at the Washington Park Rose Garden Amphitheater. It's actually the first show at the Rose Garden Amphitheater in 12 years. So we urge you to go to ticketsoregon.com. That's ticketsoregon.com, and you can buy tickets there for this benefit concert, the series of benefit concerts with Toots and the Maytals, the original reggae band. So, Michael, is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
Just, if you're supporting veterans, then the best way to support veterans is to make sure they have access to cannabis.
Okay.
Our stand is to get it in the pharmacy at the VA, and until we do that, you're going to see us working really hard to do.
What is the website for your veterans?
Veteransformedicalmarijuana.org or veteransformedicalcannabis.org. Either
Veterans for Medical Marijuana or Veterans for Medical Cannabis.
Right.
.org.
.org.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's
It's
a
been
pleasure to meet
great.
you tonight, and hopefully we'll get you back here soon. I want to urge you out there to go out and get our petition to legalize marijuana. If you need help finding a doctor who can help you get a medical marijuana permit, we have referrals to doctors all over the country. Call that number, 1-800-723-0188. We'll be happy to help you. Thanks for watching. Tune in next week. Help us restore hemp. Good night.